Good morning. I would like to introduce the first speaker of the day, Dr. Dharmanand. He has completed his MBBS from Madurai Medical College. He's completed his MD Internal Medicine from Mysore Medical College and DM Rheumatology from Madras Medical College. He is a senior rheumatologist in Bangalore who has extended his services to various hospitals and also a tutor and senior registrar. He has authored chapters in various topics like rheumatoid arthritis in children, pediatric rheumatic disorders, vasculitis, and approach to regional pain. He has also involved himself in many clinical trials. He is presently consultant rheumatologist at Columbia Asia Hospital and a director at Chandray Institute of Rheumatology.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman, for the introduction. A small correction, I am a consultant in Manipal Hospital in Chandray, not Columbia Asia. The topic today is treating rheumatoid arthritis, missed opportunities, how to catch up. The treatment of rheumatoid arthritis now has become very standard, and all of us know a little bit about how rheumatologists and physicians manage rheumatoid arthritis. The stress is on early diagnosis and early control of inflammation so that the disastrous consequences of rheumatoid arthritis is avoided and prevented in the future. The problem in our country, probably many countries, is still patients arrive late and they come at a stage where the opportunity to intervene early is already lost. So we see patients more of this category, probably 50 to 60% of the patients who would have missed the so-called window of opportunity. Let us see what we can do to achieve a decent control of arthritis in these patients. You need rheumatoid arthritis beyond 1 year of duration. Earlier definition was 2 years. I think the definition of early arthritis keeps coming down day by day. So people would assume that arthritis of 3 months duration is less than 3 months duration is very early rheumatoid arthritis, less than 1 year is early arthritis, anything beyond is late or established arthritis. Immunologically, patients rheumatoid arthritis of 2 years duration is immunologically different from rheumatoid arthritis of 3 months duration. Immunologically it is more mature. The disease is more entrenched into the body, and you all know that erosions start early. Within 6 months you can see erosions in some of the patients with poor prognosis. Thus damage is initiated early. So when we see a patient 2 years, they are already presenting to you with some amount of damage in their joints. And also, apart from, we all concentrate on bony erosions. You read any rheumatoid textbook that they talk about erosion. But apart from erosions, it is also persistent swelling of any joint will lead to ligamentous laxity. Analogy is if you keep a rubber band stretched for a few seconds and leave it, it assumes its original shape. But if you tie it around and keep it stretched for a month and leave it, it will never reach to the original turgidity and the original shape. So a swollen joint which remains swollen for months together or years together, even after the inflammation is totally gone, it is never going to be normal because of ligament laxity, and the everyday pull of the ligaments will lead to certain amount of deformities and damage. So we are facing a situation where we may not be able to totally avoid the deformities which we are familiar with rheumatoid arthritis. And also established rheumatoid arthritis is more difficult to induce remission. And even if you induce remission with, say, biologics or high-dose steroids, they will get better. But once you try to taper the steroids, or once you try to stop or phase out biologics, it comes back. So it is very difficult to sustain remission in this group of patients. So this is a cartoon which depicts the stages of evolution of autoimmunity in rheumatoid arthritis. We all now know that the rheumatoid arthritis starts decades before it actually manifests in the clinic. So benign subclinical autoimmunity keeps going underneath the surface. Probably it might result some non-specific joint symptoms which nobody would be able to call it as rheumatoid arthritis. But over time, by the time they start getting clinical symptoms, it is already 5 to 10 years of immunological maturity in the body. So it is an arthritis picked up at this point, and probably at this point and beyond would have different immunological repertoire, and maybe we need different way of managing these patients. So some of the issues we face in the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis is the awareness about rheumatoid arthritis and how rheumatoid arthritis would present is also unlikely to be prevalent in public. Unless they get an illness, they don't have a business to know what rheumatoid arthritis is, isn't it? So patients might mistake the early symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis as partly due to age, partly due to climate. This is a winter, I always feel a little stiff. They may not present to the doctors in the first few months, which may be the most crucial months with regards to prognosis and our ability to achieve a better control. And the next problem would be difficulty of recognizing early rheumatoid arthritis. A clear-cut established rheumatoid arthritis is a spotter. Anybody who is a doctor, MBBS, even a nurse, physiotherapist should be able to diagnose as a spotter. But in early arthritis, one joint swollen here, a couple of joints look puffy, some vague pains here and there, unless you have a trained eye, it may be difficult to recognize early rheumatoid arthritis even by some of the physicians. And there may be a problem of referrals because the knowledge that early treatment is required might not have percolated well into the practitioners who matter, who see the patients earlier. So they may not initiate appropriate disease modifying drugs in the first 6 months of the treatment. So this could be a factor. And early initiation, even when they see the patient make a diagnosis, the traditional trend is to start them on NSAIDs, small dose of steroid, see what happens, and if they don't respond, then consider disease modifying. This is the traditional approach. This might be one of the factors. Wherever you are practicing, whether you are a rheumatologist, physician, orthopedic surgeon, there is a huge dropout rate in rheumatoid arthritis patients. Patients who achieve a very good control, they do very well for some time, and a good old uncle comes home and says, oh, don't take this allopathic treatment, I have some Ayurvedic friend somewhere else. They prevent the patient from continuing the medication. They drop out. Then when they come back with the relapse, and the disease is not the same, that you could have controlled the disease with 7.5 milligram methotrexate. When they come back after a year of stopping and relapse, the disease is no more the same. And it is much more difficult to treat, and 25 milligram methotrexate would find it difficult to control this disease. And there is the fear of allopathic modern treatment is very, very prevalent in the community, amongst the doctors and among the people who matter. If a woman gets a disease, the neighbors, elders in the family all have the opinion or antipathy towards allopathy treatment. So this is a barrier for people from seeking and sustaining an effective treatment. And there is a popular belief that complementary alternate medicine is more suitable for rheumatoid arthritis, is still prevalent. Chandrasekhar had done a survey about 7-8 years ago. Most of the GPs in Bangalore used to refer their rheumatoid arthritis patients to Ayurvedic rather than to a rheumatologist. I mean, at that time, not many rheumatologists were around also. And this opinion is sustained effectively by probably a biased lobby where adverse effect of modern medicine is projected, and the fear psychosis is created amongst the patients. So people would have a lot of fear about continuing and taking modern medicine. So for these various reasons, there may be another 10 more reasons which I might not have touched upon here. Many would miss the window of opportunity. So there is, in the course of rheumatoid arthritis, this is the stage. This may be 3 months, maybe 6 months, you can stretch it to an year. This is the critical window of opportunity where intervention is likely to yield much better results. More patients are more likely to go to a sustained remission. Sustained remission means less radiological erosions, less damage to the joints, and less decline in the function in the long run. So this is another cartoon which depicts the same point of view which I have already alluded to. So disability in early rheumatoid arthritis is due to swollen joints. It is due to inflammation, and it is potentially reversible. And in rheumatoid arthritis, most of the joints starts very early, so the early treatment makes sense. But in contrast, the disability in late rheumatoid arthritis is mostly due to damage, and damage can occur to all the structures which I have already alluded to, and it probably is not reversible. So this is a cartoon, again stressing on early treatment. So we don't wait until all the joints get burnt out before we start disease modifying drug. This is the central theme. Inflammation over time is equal to damage. Damage is permanent. Though I am trying to talk about established arthritis, I can't stop talking about early arthritis, because only if this is most important. The message of this talk is to identify patients early enough. So if you probably diagnose early enough, institute anti-rheumatic therapy, you may be able to even prevent the development of established RA, or RA as we know by ARA criteria, or American Rheumatology Association criteria. So this is a potential for a kind of what we call a secondary prevention, probably. So we may be able to prevent the establishment of a classical rheumatoid arthritis. The buzzword is tight control and monitoring, which I will probably dwell on. And I have to stress here that methotrexate is the anchor drug. If methotrexate is not tolerated, then sulfasalazine leflunomide could be the second alternate anchor drugs. And drugs are used in various combinations, and there are many other strategies like step-up strategies. Start with one and keep on going up. Step down is start with 4 DMRDs, 3 DMRDs and bring it down. And sawtooth strategy is to use one. If it doesn't work, stop it, start another one. If it doesn't work, stop another one. All three strategies have their merits, but the most popular one is now the step down approach. This is again a cartoon which depicts the problem of rheumatoid arthritis. It is not only the joint destruction, it results in work disability, psychological factors, multiple comorbidities like ischemic heart disease, tendency for peptic ulcers, renal involvement, and we also have to deal with simultaneously treatment related side effects. Our treatment strategies are not always benign, and the drugs are not always angel drugs. And in dealing with rheumatoid arthritis, we should be familiar with this cartoon. A small group of rheumatoid arthritis could be a self-limiting rheumatoid arthritis. We generally deal with type 2 and type 3, which are generally progressive. One group is very rapidly progressive, other group is slowly progressive, but both of them over years leads to deformities and difficulties. This is an important slide. When we see a patient with early arthritis, these are all the factors which might tell us that this patient is in for a more severe arthritis, and these are the patients who would require more intense treatment. Patients who have very high inflammatory markers which is sustained. See, any arthritis, when a reactive arthritis, when it starts, will have a high ESR CRP. But if patients have a sustained high ESR, high CRP over 6 months, 1 year, they are more likely to have a poor prognostic rheumatoid arthritis. Presence of high titer rheumatoid factor and CCP again are poor prognosis. If you see an erosion at 6 months, you should not wait. This is an aggressive and arthritis. Longer the duration, see again the duration comes. The longer the duration, if you see a patient at 6 months, you can treat it differently. But if you treat the patient at 2 months, 2 years, this patient already has established arthritis and also self-selected to be in the poor prognostic group. He has come to you with 2 years of persistent synovitis. There is no need to even do a rheumatoid factor because he has self-selected himself to be in the poor prognostic group. If somebody has a large amount of joints at onset, have a poor functional ability, smoking, stopping smoking will improve the symptoms. So continue, if the rheumatoid arthritis patient continues to smoke, he is not going to get better. So the theme today is to treat to target. What is the target? The target, like diabetes, now the target of diabetic treatment is to keep a low HbA1c or a glycosylated hemoglobin less than 6.5 or less than 7. That's a target. So you try to achieve the target, keep on increasing your oral hypoglycemic, add insulin, night insulin, morning insulin, try to achieve that goal. Like that, rheumatologists have evolved a tool which I will discuss later called remission criteria. There are a lot of remission criteria which are there, 2 or 3 which we will discuss. So have a definition of low disease activity. Try to achieve remission, if not possible low disease activity, that is the target. How do we achieve the target? Because we are busy, we can't say the patient comes to me today, I start them on methotrexate, I can't ask them to come after a month. These patients require more frequent follow-up. Frequent follow-up, every month we need to see if the patients are not achieving the target, increase the disease modifying drugs, do something else to achieve the target. So adjust the medication towards achieving the preset goal. And we need to use steroids because whatever we do with disease modifying drugs, sometimes patient break through, 1 or 2 joints don't respond, so we need to use intra-articular steroids, a short course of oral steroids, sometimes intramuscular steroids to tide over the crisis. And we need to find out the best cocktail for the patient. Whatever strategy you use, whether you use a step-up strategy or step-down strategy, we need to find the best cocktail. And for all these strategies, while doing all these things, methotrexate, unless there is a contraindication, is going to be the anchor drug. So when a patient comes to you with arthritis of more than 2 years duration, who has not taken adequate DMRDs in the first year of the treatment, it is wise, they are unlikely to respond to monotherapy. How to circumvent our difficulty in managing patient with monotherapy is to start combination DMRDs. The most popular and most effective probably combination DMRD is combining methotrexate, hydroxychloroquine and sulfasalazine. This is a well studied combination. And along with always steroid is used initially. People have chosen to use high dose oral steroid which taper down over 6 months, or we can use multiple intra-articular steroids and intramuscular steroids. Methotrexate and leflunomide again is an effective combination, though a little more toxic combination. Methotrexate and cyclosporine is an effective combination but very expensive, and probably cyclosporine is not a very safe drug for long-term usage. And if you notice, all the biologics, anti-TNF drugs like Enbrel and Remicade. Rituximab is a B-cell directed therapy. Tocilizumab and abatacept, they are all more effective when combined with methotrexate. So that's why I told that methotrexate is the anchor drug. How much methotrexate? Don't start with 7.5, start with 10 or 15 straight away. Try to go up to 25 milligram within a span of 3 months. If you are starting monotherapy, at the end of 3 months, if you have achieved 25 milligram and the patient still has high disease activity, you may have to add on any of the other strategies. But when you see an established arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, you may have to start patients on one of these combination upfront. If the patient can afford, can be counseled, even starting patients on methotrexate and anti-TNF upfront and achieve a remission, and hope that we may be able to reduce and stop the biologics in future. And remission is the target. If you are not able to achieve remission, at least try to go for a low disease activity. This is one slide depicting efficacy of combination DMRDs. This is a combination which is used. So triple DMRD patients, up to 70-75% of the patients have achieved ACR 50%. ACR is again a response criteria, 50% improvement from the baseline. So more patients on triple DMRD achieve it, and sulfasalazine plus hydroxychloroquine combination seems to be probably as effective as methotrexate monotherapy, but in these studies they have not crossed 15 milligrams. So if you use 25 milligram, probably methotrexate will stand out better than this combination. So we should know what is remission. There are many remission criteria. ACR remission criteria is the classical remission where there is no swollen joints, no tender joints, no stiffness, no radiological progression, and this is the best definition, but that's the most difficult definition to achieve. Disease activity score, there is a European derived disease activity score. We use a combination of swollen joint, tender joints, and patients' assessment of disease activity and ESR or CRP. And there are many other indices like simple disease activity, clinical disease activity, where we don't need any laboratory criteria. Swollen joints, tender joints, patient's global assessment of the disease and physician's global assessment. You just calculate it together and you get a score. If the score is very low, within 10, within 5, patient is under remission. So there is a criteria, predefined criteria which is available in all the text. So when we define remission, clinical remission is very difficult but achievable in the clinic. Radiological remission is much more difficult, and immunological remission is extremely difficult. But so far, a sustained immunological remission has not been consistently achieved by any of the treatment strategies. And we have to remember that spontaneous remission can occur in 10 to 15% of the patients who fulfill the criteria for rheumatoid arthritis. A drug-induced remission, we can achieve probably 30 to 40% of the patient. With aggressive treatment, up to 50% of the patient, we may be able to induce drug-induced remission. But drug-free remission is very, very rare. Very, very rare. Only even the best of best studies, one study called BEST trial, where a combination of infliximab and methotrexate, they have used it for 1 to 2 years. Then at 2 years, about 20% of the patients have drug-free remission. So drug-free remission is definitely possible, but is not common. About 10 to 15% of the patients, if you use very aggressive strategy, either high-dose steroid plus triple DMRD or methotrexate plus infliximab, and once the patient achieves the remission, you slowly take one by one. Initially take the infliximab away, then methotrexate away. You may be able to sustain this remission in about 20% of the patients. Rest of the patients, we need to continue the medications. We have to hit hard, we have to keep hitting so that it doesn't get up. If you are not able to achieve remission, we can try to achieve low disease activity. Few joints here and there swollen is acceptable when we are not able to achieve a remission. So we have to, our zeal to achieve remission has to be balanced with the adverse effects of the drugs. If we keep on increasing the methotrexate to 50 milligram, probably more will achieve a remission, but most of them would lose their hair totally, and everybody will be full of mucosal ulcers. So patients may not be able to tolerate a very higher dose. So we have to balance this. These are all some of the studies which I will not go through in detail. Ticora is a tight control in rheumatoid arthritis. They use tight control as a strategy. They could achieve a remission as defined by earlier slides in about 50 to 60% of the patients in short term. Even at 10 years follow-up, patients who underwent tight control strategy, 30 to 40% of the patients are in drug-induced remission. Cobra strategy used high-dose steroids plus combination DMRDs. Camera study used methotrexate plus cyclosporine. They used computer-assisted predefined endpoints. They have defined that all patients should achieve a DAS score of 2.4. That is a remission criteria, 2.3 or 2.4. So if they have not achieved it, they have kept on increasing the dose of methotrexate, cyclosporine to the maximum allowed dose. Still, they have used liberally intraarticular steroids and oral steroids to achieve that remission. They are able to get a remission up to in the quantity of 60 to 70% of the patients can achieve a complete remission. Again, this is a similar strategy. We have used aggressive methotrexate, cyclosporine, intraarticular steroid. All these strategies, some of the strategies have even achieved 90% remission at 40 weeks. So it is possible with intense therapy to achieve a good control. Again, steroids are important tool when we are dealing with patients who are on an established treatment, who have missed the opportunity. We have to use steroids at various stages. Our most effective strategy, but not so popular, is high dose short-term oral steroids. Start upfront on 60 milligram steroid, taper it off over 6 months period. But many would become little Cushingoid with this strategy, and doctors and patients are very reluctant to take this strategy. But if patient agrees to take it, this is an effective strategy. A small group would require long-term strategy. Patients who don't respond to any of the DMRDs might require a low-dose steroid to sustain remission or improvement. We use intramuscular depomedrol kind of preparation to achieve a short-term relief. Intraarticular steroids can be liberally used to attack a joint which is resistant to disease modifying treatment. You have treated the patient very well, 25 milligram methotrexate, but 2 joints are not responding. Give them intraarticular steroids. Once the joints get better with intraarticular steroid, probably the DMRDs which you are giving might prevent it from coming back. IV methylprednisolone is reserved for patients with rheumatoid vasculitis and rheumatoid ulcers, ILD, etc. Biologics, I will not dwell, but biologics may be in future, if the price comes down, will be a strategy to deal with patients who have already missed the opportunities. At this moment, we are using these biologics in a very small amount of patients compared to Westerners because of the cost constraint. It takes minimum of 2 to 3 lakhs rupees per annum to use any of the strategies, despite the concessions given by our kind pharmaceutical friends. Still it is expensive. But once they become more affordable, or if most of us get an insurance cover, this is going to be the strategy to deal with patients who have missed the opportunity. Because this adding any of the biologics to methotrexate will help to control the disease much better, so that we can prevent the devastating effects of rheumatoid arthritis. They can't still cure, but I have already told you that combination of infliximab with methotrexate can cause a sustained remission, drug-free remission in some of the patient, but in our country we don't know. We can use this as a remission inducing drug and stop this and hope that methotrexate sustains the remission. Still there is no solid experimental evidence to prove this theory. Hopefully there will be more studies from our own country would come through. And there is a theoretical risk of increased infection and malignancy. So the strategy would be either use biologics plus methotrexate, combination DMRD plus steroid. Efficacy wise, they are not very different. They are very effective in early RA, moderately effective in established RA. In patients who have a long-standing RA, probably biologics might score over steroid strategy. So this is my last slide. This is a recommendation by British Society of Rheumatology for managing patients after the first 2 years. So this fulfills my definition of patients who have already missed the opportunity. There are categories like control of synovitis, symptom control, self-management strategies, physical functioning. They always stressed on psychosocial functioning. How Tuileji used to use DMRDs and biologics. They are very effective in medium to long term, but be aware that once the patient gets better, in an established arthritis, trying to reduce your methotrexate dosage, trying to stop the steroids, trying to stop biologics can lead to flare. In an early RA, if you achieve a control, very good control with your disease modifying drugs and biologics, you may be able to withdraw the most toxic drug or more expensive drug and sustain with the best methotrexate. But in a patient with established arthritis, you may not be able to totally reduce the dosage. and they have stressed on monitoring activities, disease activity very regularly, and monitor response to biologics very regularly. At the end of 2 to 3 months, if your biologics is not helping to achieve the target, you have to switch. There is no point in continuing the biologics. And we have to always make sure that the pain is adequately managed. NSAIDs short term is okay, but long term it is the disease control which is the best pain medicine. And always consider individual choices. You can't enforce your choice on the patient always. Always respect what patient tells. You give them the scientific details. Tell this is the best strategy. And if the patient chooses not to use it, and you have to accept that choice. So we have to have a regular review of what is happening to the patient. You start the treatment at the end of 6 months, 1 year, see whether my strategy is working or not. If my strategy is not working, you have to revise the strategy. And they have stressed on cardiovascular risk factor profiling. And if the patient is on glucocorticoid, we have to use glucocorticoid induced osteoporosis prevention strategies like vitamin D, calcium, regular exercises, and bisphosphonates. And always use medication monitoring strategies, and also if the patients develop side effects because of the medications, have a contingency plan for the next possible strategies. So with this slide, I think I will stop and insist that patients with disease of more than couple of years duration who have missed the opportunity in the first few weeks, few months of their illness to have initiated on disease modifying drugs, these patients require much more aggressive treatment upfront. We need to start them on combination DMRDs at an adequate dose. If you start methotrexate, make sure that you go up to 20 to 25 milligram per week if the patient tolerates it, and monitor them regularly. Always use sulfasalazine and hydroxychloroquine at adequate dosage. 2 grams of sulfasalazine, 400 milligram of hydroxychloroquine in most of the adults. Or have an alternate strategy like methotrexate plus leflunomide. The patient can afford methotrexate plus biologics. Once the patient achieves the remission, be slow in tapering the dosage of your disease modifying drugs, but quick tapering will cause a relapse of the disease. A disease which comes back is much more difficult to control. And use intra-articular steroids liberally to control the joints which don't respond adequately. You can inject 2 to 3 joints at a time conveniently without worrying about too much of side effects. And with this strategy, we may be able to achieve a good control of rheumatoid arthritis in patients who have missed the initial opportunities. But the future is going to be probably with biologics. Hope the price has come down. Thank you very much for patience.
Thank you, Dr. Dharmanand, for the insight into how important it is to recognize rheumatoid arthritis early and the treatment aspects plus a secondary prevention. Any questions from the audience?
Sir, you said to use the DMARD plus high dose steroid short term. High dose steroids to start with 60 milligram. 60 milligram. And how long this 60 milligram, and when we should start tapering the dose?
The 60 milligram dosage is generally sustained for 2 to 4 weeks. Then have 10 milligram every 2 weeks, you can taper it down. Come down to 10 milligram. After 10 milligram, reduce it little more slowly. 2.5 milligram every month you can taper. So over 6 to 8 months, have a plan to totally take away the steroid.
And another strategy is said the low dose and long term. What do you mean by low dose, and what is the dose, and what should be the time duration?
Low dose long term steroid should not be the routine strategy. It is reserved for patients who cannot take a non-steroidal, who have multiple contraindications for adequate dosage of DMRDs. Say if you have a renal failure, I can't use probably large dose of methotrexate without worrying about methotrexate-induced cytopenias, because patient, if you have renal failure, you are more prone to develop methotrexate side effects. And in these patients, group of patients, giving low dose is 5 to 7.5 milligram on a long-term basis may be an accepted alternative to not treating them. Because the disease activity, if you don't give adequate DMRDs, if they cannot go for biologics, we can't give them NSAID, then we have not much of a choice but to give them 5 to 7.5 milligram equivalent of prednisolone on a long-term basis. Nothing more than that. When you use this, always have osteoporosis preventive strategy, and we have to anticipate some side effects like premature cataract, lipid abnormality. We have to monitor for side effects. We have to tell the patient that you may develop long-term skin-related side effects, diabetes, hypertension.
And intraarticular injections, sir, triamcinolone you said.
Yes.
Is it a single injection, or can we give it, at different intervals, sir?
See, if the disease gets adequately controlled, there is no plan to give a serial injections. What we do is, if my patient has got one elbow swollen, rest of the joints are fine, I give an intraarticular injection into that elbow. And we also give the methotrexate at full dose. With this strategy, we hardly need to give another injection to the same elbow. But if required, we can give up to 3 to 4 injections per joint per year. Weight bearing joint, 3 injections per year. Non-weight bearing joint, there is no real limit, but generally we limit to 2 to 3 injections a year.
Thank you.
Sir, in rheumatoid arthritis, projected over long, there are a few years, many of them will have residual damage. And at that point, I think the disease modifying agents may not be much useful. So, what is the time frame? How long do you continue these disease modifying agents, and when do you decide to stop them?
No.
Because the burnt out lesions, the disease modifying agents may not have a role.
Entire idea is to prevent you from going into that stage which you are describing.
Suppose if he presents to you late.
Even if the rheumatoid arthritis never really burns out, okay, there may be few joints which are damaged. Your knees may be damaged, which may require a knee replacement as a strategy. So once knees are damaged, your disease modifying drug, your biologics, anti-TNF is not going to really make a benefit. That stage, you have to replace your knee joints, but you will still have opportunity to have control the disease activity in your other joints. So rheumatoid arthritis, which is established over years, never really burns out. Even if all the joints are burnt out, still it is a systemic disease. If you don't control the inflammation, it will find its way through another route. It will cause a scleritis, it will cause a chronic vasculitic ulcer, you may develop an interstitial lung disease. So it is always wise to give adequate control of immunosuppressives. I agree with your point that if there is a significant damage, we are not going to be very aggressive with your disease modifying. I am not going to push up to 25 milligram in a lady who is already in a bedridden with ILD, but we have to give some amount of methotrexate or equivalent drug so that systemic inflammation is reduced. So it depends, the strategy depends upon what stage the patient presents to you. If patient presents to you with 25 years of rheumatoid arthritis with vasculitic ulcer, ILD, none of my talk is relevant to you. None of my talk is relevant to you. This is a talk which is aimed at patients who come to you with 2 years duration of disease, where a significant amount of damage is unlikely to be present. There is still an opportunity to prevent further damage. There might have been a small damage which has been initiated. We are trying to cope up and catch up. First 3 months we can still achieve a better control, 6 months better, but 1 or 2 years we can still try to catch up with the new armamentarium. But at 10 years, you have already, train is gone. You have to look out for the other train or alternate route to travel.
Is it like lifetime medication, disease modifying agents?
Yes.
Sir, and regarding remission, I wanted clarification. Say you have started as a diagnosed rheumatoid arthritis, and you have started him on, say, let us say 3 drug regime, the methotrexate and chloroquine and sulfasalazine, and the patient goes into remission, and in such remission it becomes difficult to say whether it is a spontaneous remission or a DMRD induced remission or a drug free remission. He is in remission, he is on medication. How can you make out whether it is spontaneous or drug induced or drug free remission? How can you find out?
It's difficult, it's a very difficult point, but a patient who has come to you with an established rheumatoid arthritis is unlikely to go into spontaneous remission. Spontaneous remission is more common in patients
who have a short duration of illness. Somebody presents to you with less than 12 weeks duration of disease. It looks like rheumatoid arthritis is only 12 weeks duration. This patient is more likely to achieve a spontaneous remission, about 20 to 30%. But if somebody comes to you with 2 years of rheumatoid arthritis, is unlikely. The chance of achieving a spontaneous remission will be less than maybe 2%, 3%. So we have to assume that the remission achieved is due to drug. Keep the drug, say, at the same dosage for at least 1 year, probably 2 years. If he sustains the remission at 2 years, then you gamble and try to reduce the dosage and see what happens. At the earliest sign of disease coming back, again you have to go back. If you use this strategy, a small percentage of patients, you may be able to reduce the dosage to a minimum. Maybe you may be able to sustain the improvement with 10 milligram methotrexate on long term. You may be able to cut down the other DMRDs.
You slowly reduce the medicine and you stop it if there is a long remission?
If this strategy goes on, every 6 months we will cut down a little bit. At the end of 4 years, if still under remission, I would be tempted to stop, knowing well that patient can still remit, still relapse.
Other questions?
How big is the remission? The lifespan?
Most of the patients it comes back if you stop. Most of the patient comes back. So we would not probably stop. Unless I told you, 4 years of absolutely normalcy with 7.5 milligram methotrexate, I would be tempted to stop. But even then, about 50% chance that it will come back.
Thank you, Dr. Dharmanand. I think